Welcome to What the Fantasy. I am Brandon Hay at HeyB3.
Good evening. My name is Zareh Kentibidyan, and I'm at ZKantsFF on Twitter. And I just got my heater fixed, and I'm so happy because it's been freezing in our house.
That sucks. How long?
Yeah.
What's the temperature out there?
It was 40 degrees this morning when I woke up, when I went out to my car.
Ugh.
Yeah. No, and I know you're in Florida, and so like you don't really have to ever worry about that stuff. But in California, even like Southern California, where I live, it really never gets that cold. It may get to like 50, but 40 degrees this morning. I didn't want to get out of bed. My cats didn't want to get out of bed. There was frost on our windows this morning. It is brutal, man. Like you want to work because you're just like, I can't stand still. Can we just please work? And my job actually requires me to do a lot of physical manual labor. So like I can't wait to start working. But our neighbor, his wife came over. She's a pregnant lady who's really handy. She showed us how to light the pilot back on. She's like our handyman for the entire building. Like me and the neighbor, like we know how to like do things, but she knows how to do a lot more way more things than us. So I mean, I think, she's a very strong woman. So we like having her around our building. She handles everything. Whenever there's something wrong in the entire building and we're too scared to tell the owner, we just tell her to call the owner and tell her. She goes, yeah, I'll call. I don't care. So she's awesome. We love having her.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
I had nothing like that, but I did wake up on, I think, Monday, and we have a pool in our backyard. But we can't get in it like pretty much from like November to like March or whatever. So I woke up and it was like green, like the color of our like words,
Right.
Yeah. So that wasn't good. So I spent a lot of that day, on my lunch break, I went to the pool store, had to go, sweep it, put all these chemicals in and do all this stuff. So nothing like what you're doing, but that was a mini emergency.
That's a task. That's so you've got like the pool maintenance game down pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. We know that we need to definitely take the water to the pool store to get tested when it's green. So,
unless you want to turn into like Ninja Turtles or something like that.
Yeah. That's what I always think. I'm always afraid that like it's green because like there's an alligator in there or something. It's about to pop out. So
maybe they're down there, right?
Yeah, they are. It's some crazy stuff, that shows up in, places in Florida. We haven't had an alligator in our backyard, but we've woken up to like tons of ducks in our pool. And then one day we woke up to a dead rat, like in our by our back door.
But you cut out pretty bad. You said you had a dead rat where?
By our back door. Like it was just sitting there. Like
just
we walked outside, dead, and like with all these like flies. It was gross.
Nature just working its magic. Huh?
I don't know how that happened. So let's move on from this wonderful.
How do we transition? How do we transition from dead rats to the next topic? Let's try. I don't think it's possible.
All right. Let's talk about the, some news and notes, and let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. So they were on last Thursday. I don't know. Did you watch that game against the Steelers?
I did. It was awesome. It was very entertaining. I wouldn't say it was, awesome. I mean, it was awesome in the sense for, entertaining. But I watched it.
Yeah. So they were up 29-0. Let the Steelers come back. Almost lost the game at the end. They did end up winning, which I know I was talking to someone during the game, and if they lost that game, we were wondering if they would even let Mike Zimmer coach the next game or they'd fire him on the spot. But they did that stat about they've had 11 games that have been by a possession and last drives, and a couple of them have been last plays of the game. And I feel like most times the Vikings have leads in those games. So why do you think they cannot keep those leads, and win games more comfortably?
I don't have the specific answer for you, but I'm guessing it's because, the Steelers came out of the locker room at halftime and they made some adjustments. And I'm going to make an educated guess and think that the defensive coordinators or the defense doesn't know how to adjust quick enough to what the offense is doing. So they have a certain game plan they come and execute, and they execute well. But as we saw against the Lions and Jared Goff coming down and leading the team to a final. So, the Lions came down, they led, and Goff led the Lions to a game-winning drive on the final drive of the game with like a minute left to go. It could be just a mental thing with the entire defensive unit. So I'm going to sum it up to that, just mental miscues.
Yeah, I guess that could be, and I think that might be at least the scheme, what happens on the offense, because it seems like they get out to the lead and then the offense gets stagnant, and part of that might just be Zimmer being, like ground and pound and let's stop throwing the ball. But they just seem to stop scoring or something to that effect. And that Lions game was bad. I didn't watch that game. I just watched the last possession, and to just let the Lions storm back down the field with Jared Goff and those receivers was very bad. So, it's just weird because the Vikings are a good team and their defense was playing well against the Steelers, and then they just fell apart.
Right. And, I should go back and watch that game because Najee Harris really got it going in the second half. So they got their run blocking up, and they got their passing game obviously came alive. So the defense came alive, made a good stop, I think, which allowed the Steelers to take over the ball in the red zone. So it really comes down to like those few moments where, you can capitalize on the turnovers, right? Like you can have all these points scored on you, but if you're making prime turnovers in respectable parts of the field where it's not too hard to put up points, then, it doesn't really, I guess what we can take away from that game is it really doesn't take much to swing a game. Even if a defense takes the ball away from a team that's even if a team that's trailing, that defense takes the ball away from the team with a lead and you happen to score a field goal or a touchdown, it's still, momentum is a real thing. So if a team establishes momentum in any real way, it reverberates through an entire defense and offense of another team. That the momentum shifts. Obviously, we've seen it happen so many times. The team will go 3 and out. Defense comes up with a big stop, interception, and the ball it's just snowball effect from there on.
Yeah, and I know everyone likes to make fun of obviously Big Ben because he's not the same player anymore, but there's been games where he's brought them back. He almost brought them back against the Chargers, I believe, and he played well in the second half of this game. So, even though he's not what he used to be, he still can, sling the ball around, and get some of those open receivers. And, but it kind of looks like they might be fading because they've lost a couple games for the Steelers at least. And then the next kind of news and notes is the Raiders are falling apart. And is it time to, reboot because, Gruden's not there anymore? This game that it was never a game. I'm guessing you saw where they did the jumping on the Chiefs emblem and then they, Jacobs fumbled and then the Chiefs just ran him out of the building. So, they're kind of falling apart. I know Darren Waller's been out, but really the only thing they have is Hunter Renfrow.
Yes, sir.
So do you think it's time to kind of move on from Derek Carr and kind of redo everything? Or, do you think they could just add a couple pieces with a new coach? What's your kind of take on them?
Yeah, I think, obviously what happened with John Gruden and, the whole scandal that happened with him, that didn't help the locker room. And, I think these intangible things like momentum and locker room and, just culture, these things really matter. They have a large impact. Also, as far as Derek Carr goes, I think he's a fine quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's better. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I think he's above average quarterback. He's serviceable. He's smart. Yeah, sure, he makes some panic decisions, but he can definitely win some games for you. You get some offensive pieces in there. They have really nothing to write home about. Josh Jacobs is staying healthy. You don't have a real offensive coach in there. It's the defense kind of came on in the beginning of the year, and now they've fallen apart. They hung in there. They put up a decent fight this year in the AFC West. I think they can, considering what they have on offense, I don't think they shouldn't have won as many games as they did this year. I wouldn't have put my money on them to have won 5 or 6 games. But Derek Carr, I'd love to have him as my team's quarterback. I'd be totally fine with him. I have confidence in him. Imagine if they bring in some really nice talent next year. Imagine if they bring in Allen Robinson next year or Chris Godwin we were talking about a few shows prior to this. You have Chris Godwin going. They have a solid wide receiver going. They have Darren Waller going. Even bringing another running back to complement Josh Jacobs and establish a nice, solid running game. And Derek Carr will be fine. They can really give that Chiefs, the Chiefs, the lead dog team in the AFC West, run for the money. Add another defensive piece somewhere. Maybe another pass rusher, and we can be in business in Oakland or Las Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true that they are thinking. I mean, maybe if they lose another game, playing Marcus Mariota a little, which, I mean, I understand that. I've thought that they might try that, but I think Derek Carr obviously isn't the problem there. Obviously, when Waller went down, they kind of don't have anything, with the Henry Ruggs situation. He was really starting to come on before, all his legal troubles and everything. So I think you're right. And I think I don't know if Chris Godwin would want to go to the Raiders, but I think that actually would be a pretty good fit, with Carr, because two big receivers, and you got Renfro kind of working out the slot. And Brian Edwards just can't seem to do much. So they probably need to get another receiver also. So it'll be interesting where the Raiders kind of go, if they're going to stay with Mayock as their GM, and all of that.
Agreed.
So the last thing, I know you've talked about Heineke before. People were kind of, on him, liking him a little bit more because they were on that little win streak against Dallas. He got hurt and he got hit a lot, but he just did not look very good. And I just think this Washington team, I know the defense hasn't played up to what we thought they would, but I think part of that is the offense just is not able to move the ball very well. And they just need a legitimate starting quarterback.
Yeah, and if Derek Carr is above average, right, Taylor Heineke is just below average. He's not going to win the game for you. I mean, yeah, he did it against the Giants. I mean, he has won the game for them, in somewhat of a competitive heated battle. But his mistakes, he's just not improving on his mistakes. He's not improving. His passing hasn't improved since the beginning of the year. He's the game manager quarterback, play with a lead quarterback, and establish the run quarterback. If he can improve on his passing fundamentals, on not throwing the ball way too high for his receivers and getting his receivers killed, if not putting enough touch on the ball, his sometimes he shows a lack of velocity on certain routes. Like I saw him throw like an out route to the sideline. It was just so soft, allow the DB to catch up to the ball. So, I mean, it's really difficult to put your money on a guy who is more likely than not, or more, he's more, he's not good, more like he's not going to lead the team down the field, from their own end zone to the opponent's end zone for a scoring drive. It probably won't happen with this guy. This is not the guy to do it. And if you can't find a quarterback that can do that for your team, then you need to cut ties with that quarterback or make him the backup quarterback.
No, I agree. And I think when they brought in Fitzpatrick and, had Heineke as the backup, I think what their plan was, at least for Rivera, was to be able to run the ball, have a good defense, and their defense hasn't been able to stop people very well. They haven't been able to run the ball, consistently. So they have to depend on the passing, and, they can't seem to get everything going. Curtis Samuel's been hurt this year. I feel sorry for Terry McLaurin because he's running down the field and he has to jump high, and he actually got a concussion because Heineke threw it way too high and he jumped up and he fell on his head. So, it's a little bit of a mess with them. I think they're still in the playoff hunt, but you just saw and also you saw I haven't watched a ton of Cowboys games this year, but Micah Parsons is just an animal, and he is probably going to be rookie defensive player of the year, and it looks like they got a really great player that's going to make that defense great for years to come. Amen
to that.
All right, so next I wanted to talk about something that I kind of been thinking about, at least for the last 3 weeks, talking about the route runners over like more the physical type receivers. So we're talking, for the route runners, you see on the screen, we got, last 3 weeks. Cooper Kupp's been good all year, but we were doing the last 3 weeks for Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, Hunter Renfro. All similar players, and they are very good route runners, very precise. amazing in PPR because they get all the catches. You see Kupp has been first, Lockett fourth, and Renfro is sixth. And the crazy thing with Renfro is he's not even scoring that many touchdowns. He's just getting all the catches. And then the physical receivers, you got Mike Evans, who's been better, throughout the year, but then Chase Claypool and DK Metcalf, 17th, 27th, and 61st. So I kind of want to get your opinion on what kind of receiver you kind of like more in fantasy on your rosters. And if this is just, a little blip for, these type of guys in this 3-week span, or if you can kind of depend on them down the stretch.
I don't know if it could be boiled down to these guys are doing better because they're better route runners and these guys are worse because they're physical. I think it has to do with okay, let's talk about it. Cooper Kupp, obviously, he gets massive volume on that team. Great wide receiver, not physical at all. Stafford loves to throw it to him because he is a great wide receiver. So obviously, I'm going to want Cooper Kupp over all of them. Tyler Lockett, he just gets better. He gets along better. I think he just has better chemistry with Russell Wilson. He knows how to run when Russell Wilson needs him to be in a certain spot. Hunter Renfro, he's a volume play. I'm not sure. I've never even studied Hunter Renfro's route running, so I can't really speak to how good he is at route running. But I remember watching him the first week of this season when they were playing the Ravens, and I noticed. I said to myself, and I wrote on Twitter, I was like, "This guy has matured." I don't know what it is, but he just looks like he has matured as route runner. Now with Mike Evans, I think as far as being the 17th best, these are fantasy point rankings, I'm assuming. So I think Mike Evans, he just had a larger target tree to deal with. He had a Gronk to deal with. He's got Godwin to deal with. He had Antonio Brown to deal with at a certain amount of time. Claypool, obviously, Ben Roethlisberger has fallen off, and DK Metcalf. I don't know, man.
I think he's the one that is the most confusing to me because he had a good year last year, and everyone was expecting him to be, like a top 5 receiver. And I'm just wondering, I don't really understand what's going on because, he is this physical guy. Is he not, running these precise routes to get open where Russell wants to throw him the ball? I would think Russell's just throwing it up to him before, but that number is just crazy to me, that he is just not getting the ball more.
I'm doing the Bernie Sanders thing right here with my finger. I'm trying to get my. Did you watch any of that Houston Texans game last week against the Seahawks? Did you see it?
I watched.
Did you see it? DK Metcalf. I watched the entire thing 2 days ago. DK Metcalf, he had 2 touchdowns, I believe, wiped off the board, or at least 1 touchdown wiped off the board, and 1 massive game wiped off the board by really bad foul calls, very bad foul calls. So DK Metcalf should have had a really good week last week. Both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf should have both had good weeks last week. So I don't know where that would have. I'm sure that would have probably put him up way higher. So you know what? I think DK Metcalf for a DFS probably this week is a good bet to do a lot better because he had some production taken off the board last week.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. I think, I'm not necessarily saying you should take, the left side over the right side, but I just thought that was kind of interesting in this little 3-game spread, the difference. I think in that Pittsburgh game, we kind of saw with Chase Claypool, he's a lot of people are talking about this on Twitter. He's not a mature player. He's not a mature person. He poked the guy in the face and then got a penalty. And then the first down, I don't know if you saw, he said, he tried to explain today about that the ball slipped out of his hand. No, it didn't. He made the first down, thing.
He didn't like this.
Yeah. So, there's some things in, and it seems like Tomlin is kind of getting sick of some of his stuff because he, I guess, said they should play more music in practice, and a couple of the players, were not too happy with that. So, it's I think the thing with Big Ben not having to, be able to throw it deep as much hurts him too. But I think another part of it is just he just has to mature not only as a football player, but just, as a person, just not do those stupid knucklehead things on the field. I've seen a couple times when him get personal fouls this year, and he's like one of those players like Jalen Ramsey. When they're losing, they don't take it well at all. So they like lash out, and do all that stuff. When they're winning, they're on top of the world. But, when they're losing, they kind of like lose their cool. So, that's interesting to me. And with Tyler Lockett, he's done this, his whole career with Russell Wilson. He'll have big games and then kind of, disappear a little bit. But, yeah, I do know that, I think with the Hunter Renfrow, at least, he is, especially in certain routes, he's a very good route runner. So I think that, helps with certain quarterbacks that want more of the timing. Whereas, some other quarterbacks just look for a guy, if he looks up and they'll throw it in the general area. So I think that's kind of interesting, and maybe something like season long I'll kind of look into to see if there's really any merit to those different type of players.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So now, since it's playoff time, I'm guessing you got in at least a couple playoffs leagues.
I did. Yeah.
So yeah, I got into. So I'm going to talk about some players that we feel like we cannot trust in the playoffs. So I'll go ahead and start. One for me, it sucks, but it's James Robinson with the Jaguars. I'm sure you've seen some more news come out about Urban Meyer apparently kicking Josh Lambo when he's stretching in the preseason. There's definitely something going on with Urban or someone on that coaching staff that they don't give the ball to James Robinson when Trevor Lawrence even said, he needs to get the ball. He's the best player. They played the Titans last week. Defense played pretty well, only allowed 17 points. It was like 10 to nothing deep into the third quarter. And he only got six carries, which doesn't make any sense. So I'm in some playoff leagues with him, and I just can't play him. I'm playing way worse players, but I just can't trust him in a playoff setting. So who's a player for you?
I just need a reason to not play Ezekiel Elliott. I don't want to play him anymore. It's just I don't this whole knee thing. He looks hobbled. He looks like he's 80 years old out there. It's just not a pleasurable. He's like an RB3, man. Like he's just not doing it. He's not putting up the points. Man, I don't know. Like even I think in a matchup, I think I'm pretty good in my matchup this week in one league with Ezekiel Elliott. But if I didn't look like a strong favorite, I might bench him for somebody else. If I don't know who you could bench him for. James Conner?
I probably would do that.
Yeah. I think I'd bench him for James Conner. I think, a couple weeks of him hobbling around and, it's just, I don't feel good about it. So I don't really trust him. But unfortunately, I don't really have any replacements for him, and I'm not going to put Myles Gaskin in over Ezekiel Elliott. So,
yeah, that would be tough because you could either have one of those Myles Gaskin games where he gets like 2-yard touchdowns, or one of those where he gets 12 total yards.
It's so weird.
Yeah, that's a tough one because I definitely think it's a tough situation now that I don't know Tony Pollard's stats for this week. I know he missed last week's game because if he was healthy, if I was them, I would have set Zeke already a couple games and played Tony Pollard. For sure. To get Zeke out. I think we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Now that Pollard's hurt, it's kind of like you don't really have a choice. You're pushing Zeke out there on one leg, and he does. He's a warrior for trying to run on that knee and everything. But you can see like he gets 2 steps, and it's like he's hopping. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten more hurt. Trying to run on that knee.
Corey Clement didn't have too bad of a game last week. I think he went 13 for 44. He was solid, and he had 2 targets with 1 reception for like a minimal gain. But I think we'll see him. I believe I saw a report that said Pollard came back to practice today. I don't think that he should be playing. I don't think Zeke should be seeing a lot of time on the field either because they look like they're going to clinch. It's too early to tell because the rest of their matchups are against their own division, and those matchups can go any way. But, you might want to start thinking about reducing their snap exposure a little bit and putting in Corey Clement and finding other ways to get the ground game going by way of screen or jet sweeps with other players.
No, I agree. And you would think with all those receivers back now, you know, I there's been something going on with Dak too. He hasn't looked,
Yeah.
great lately, but I think you could get by, doing a lot of those sweeps like you're saying with CD Lamb and just get some short passes and using Clement because I didn't even know he was on the Cowboys till last week. Like
Right.
I didn't know
I
he
didn't
was
know either.
I didn't know he was on the roster because he's always bounced around on the Eagles. But when he's gotten into games, he looks like a good enough running back to be your second or third running back. So that's a good call on that. So another player, kind of we've already talked about the Washington football team, but Terry McLaurin. It's not because he's not it's not anything really because of him. It's just the passing game is just so erratic. That he's not getting like good targets. And, before the season, it kind of seemed like he was always quarterback proof, kind of like Allen Robinson. And both of them haven't been this year. And, it's hard to not play him, but last week he got a 0. He didn't get a single catch. And I know he was hurt, but that wasn't until like mid or late till the fourth. So I don't know how your number one receiver can't get a catch, especially when you're down 24-0, like within the first quarter. So you have to be throwing the ball. So I just can't. There might be a league where I have to play him, but if I can avoid it, I'm not going to play him until I can see something better from that whole offense.
Yeah, I think Heineke was terrified to throw it to him because I think Diggs was draped all over him most of the game. Heineke was just terrified in general, and it's. And he usually does a good job of feeding Terry too, and and Terry's pretty productive off that. So I mean, I wouldn't be too scared of Terry McLaurin because I think they could bounce back nicely against the Eagles. But my second guy is I don't want to. It's another Washington football team player. It's Antonio Gibson. He leads the league in fumbles right now. The nature. It's not that I don't believe in him as a running back. I think when they played the Raiders, right, they ran him like 27 something times. And the game before that, they ran him 20 plus times. My fear for playing him last week is, okay, the Cowboys are a good defense. They know how the Washington football team wins. They don't want to put up crazy point totals. They want to give Antonio Gibson the ball a lot. I mean, it's at a certain point as a fantasy GM manager, you think to yourself, okay, this guy, he's a great player, but the teams in actual real football, the teams understand what to do. They understand how to stop him, and they put a stop to it, and they didn't allow to it. Now they got the Eagles coming up. Eagles are a pretty solid run defense. And the guy's fumbling now. So, I mean, if he fumbles like once every other game. And J.D. McKissic's coming back. So I don't know what Ron Rivera is going to do. I'll start him again, but I don't feel comfortable about it at all.
No, I agree. And the only problem is I could totally see, especially with McKissic's back, if he has a fumble early, like them, just going straight to McKissic and, just cutting him out. But the thing is, it's kind of like last year with with Deontay Johnson. If he had a drop early, they'd set him for like a quarter or something. It's just like, if he doesn't do that, he's going to perform, but you never know when that fumble or that drop is going to happen. So that's definitely tough with him. So, yeah, so now we'll move into our fun topic. And I did not ask you before I put this on the sheet. Do you like to do karaoke?
Absolutely. It's a great topic to have on there and not ask me about because I already have a top 3 in my head that I go to every single time.
Oh, really?
I'm going to go first.
Go ahead.
My first one is Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back. I've been on stage singing that song, and I've actually had people dancing with each other and who have become have ended up in long-term relationships because of my skills at Baby Got Back. They met each other on the dance floor during my songs, and months later they're still together. So I've created beautiful memories from my karaoke skills singing Baby Got Back.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The first one for me is it's a Boyz II Men song. I don't know if you're a fan of Boyz II Men.
They're all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't like that answer. That they're all right. But yeah, in college when we would drink and have parties at the apartment, we would do like a group singing of "I'll Make Love to You." So it's kind of become like a karaoke thing with a lot of My friends. So that's one of our go-to karaoke songs.
Do you have that? Do you have a picture of Trevor Lawrence in your room when you play that song? it's that song.
Not after this year. Not after this year.
No, it's sad. It's sad. My second song is "I'm Turning Japanese" by I don't know who sings that song, but I think it's just a fun, like crazy 80s song to sing for no particular reason. It's usually one of my go-tos. So yeah, that song is my second song.
Yeah, the next is R. Kelly, "The World's Greatest." It's a song we listen to a lot, and it's just a feel-good, catchy kind of tune.
All right, I'm seeing an R&B theme. Is that like R&B?
I didn't even mean to, but sometimes you just get that, that feeling for that, I guess.
You get that deep soul. You got those feels, man. God, you're moving the crowd. My third and final one is "Luck Be a Lady Tonight" by Frank Sinatra. Just a classy song. Depends what I'm drinking. If I'm having whiskey, it's probably going to be a Frank Sinatra song. So "Luck Be a Lady." And I'll usually bring on like a couple of my friends and they'll help me out with the song too. It's a lot more fun like that.
Yeah, I think that song was in Mrs. Doubtfire, right?
I believe so.
For some reason, that's how I always associate that song with.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So this is probably cliche, a lot of people probably do this, but last one, Journey, "Don't Stop Believing." It's always a fan favorite, gets everyone kind of energized and kind of going. Everyone sings along. So that would probably be my top one.
That's one of the best ones to go to, man. It really does get everybody going for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So how often would you say you do karaoke? Do you like go out to places to do karaoke? Do it at home?
I don't like talking about it because one of my favorite karaoke places, it was a restaurant called the Golden China at the Golden China Bar. And it was on one side, it was like a legit like Chinese restaurant. And they had this like massive seating area where like there would only be 3 people sitting in there every night, but there were like 50 tables. And then on the other half of the restaurant of the establishment was a karaoke bar, a big, huge bar. Grand, a beautiful bar, lots of tables, and a big karaoke. So I used to live 5 minutes from there. 5 minutes, like on bike, 10 minutes walking. So in my 20s, we'd go there like once a month at least, and just do karaoke all night long and talk to some like old salty fishermen or something like that would just coming off the boat with their girlfriends. And it was never a place all the young kids went to. All the young kids went downtown to the main strip, but Golden China had amazing food, so you can get amazing, really well prepared Chinese food and have karaoke and great cocktails. I mean, what else? What else is there?
That's funny that you say that because I was in Philadelphia for a wedding, and the night before the wedding, we went out to. I met the person that's getting married out, and it was like they told us where to go, and it ended up being a Chinese restaurant. So we were like, "Are we sure this is the right place?" And upstairs, it was like a huge like club bar area where they did karaoke. But if you walk through, it looked like a regular Chinese place, and you go upstairs, kind of similar to what you were talking about, and it was this big karaoke thing. So maybe that's a thing, in different cities, having Chinese places that double as karaoke bars.
Have you ever karaoke'd sober?
No. No.
Would you ever do it?
I might.
I don't think I could ever do it. I've never done it.
Yeah, it would be tough. It would be tough. You need a little bit of that liquid courage to just get up there.
And there's no stage presence if you're like sober. Like
that's true.
After a couple of drinks,
I think too when you've had something to drink, you don't focus on the crowd. You're more like. Yeah. But like if I was sober, I feel like I'd be looking at everyone in the crowd and like seeing how they're judging me, and they would totally affect my performance. So I haven't.
When you're drunk,
but yeah.
When you're drunk, you probably think you look like a rock star. You're like, I'm so awesome. Look at these moves. I didn't even know I could dance like this. And then like somebody shows you the film, like, oh Jesus, please delete that.
Dude, whenever there's videos of like anything, when we're drunk, I refuse to watch them because I was like, I don't want to. I have a picture in my mind what it was. I don't want to see the real picture of what.
I'm kind of like the end of what's that Bachelor Party movie where they go to Zach Galifianakis is in?
Hangover.
hangover. I'm kind of like, all right, we're gonna look at these once and then we're gonna delete them. Like I'm more like that.
Oh, definitely. All right. So the last topic of the night is just I wanted to go over just some players before the season. We thought something about them, and it turns out we've been horribly wrong. So I'll go first. One is Terry McLaurin's been getting a lot of pub this episode, but one of my hot takes was that he was going to be a top 5 receiver, unless he has like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, a game in the season. He will not be a top 5 receiver. I just thought he would make that jump. Part of that was I thought Fitzmagic would be in there, but I don't really know if that would change anything. It just has not gone well for the Washington football team and Terry. I still love his talent, but maybe I was a little overzealous with that thought.
It's not your fault, man. Brandon, it's not your fault. It's okay. I hope you're not like whipping yourself at night, like punishing yourself every night, with like that thing that I hope you're not hurt. I hope you're not torturing yourself. My number one is Jonathan Taylor. All right. Okay. I think Jonathan Taylor is a great running back. My reservations originated from Frank Reich and Marlon Mack still being there. I looked at Marlon Mack's utilization with Frank Reich before Jonathan Taylor while Nyheim Hines was there. And Marlon Mack with Frank Reich received like 300 plus carries 2 years ago before Marlon Mack got injured. So he knew that Marlon Mack could be used as a workhorse. He gave him a lot of carries. Now you enter Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor ended the year last year pretty well, but you saw some kind of like reservations with the way Frank Reich wanted to use him. Even this year, you kind of see it every once, but not now. But like down the middle of the season, the beginning of the season, you saw it. And I was kind of right to start the season. People were like, oh, God, Jonathan Taylor's not working out. Like the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season wasn't working out. But I think Reich ultimately – so I wasn't like completely wrong, but like ultimately, yeah, I fucked up big. So Jonathan Taylor – I took Nick Chubb over Jonathan Taylor in my draft. It's good. That's fine. Nick Chubb's fine. But, dude, if I had Jonathan Taylor, I would have been in the playoffs in that league. So talent won out eventually in the long view. Supreme talent wins over this kind of like mediocre, talent, add in trust in the system. Supreme talent will just throw all out the window. So I was wrong about JT.
All right, my second is kind of a pair. When Matthew Stafford went to the Rams, everyone was trying to figure out, who was going to be, the main receiver and everything. And, I know Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp were, good friends, and they threw a lot of short passes to him. So I assumed that Robert Woods would be the more deep threat, and he was going to be the player that they, really went to and everything. I know Woods is hurt, but even before this, and I found out very early I was wrong. And I thought that Cooper Kupp, all of his targets was kind of inflated because of Goff. But then I found out, no, he was getting held back because of Jared Goff, because you see what he's doing with a good quarterback. So I was totally wrong with that. Cooper Kupp, and Matthew Stafford apparently have some sort of breakfast club together, and they have that connection. And I was totally wrong about that one. So that's another one.
It's okay. It's all right. No one's mad at you. I'm not mad at you. And I'm gonna start doing this. I'm gonna take this off, and I'm gonna start talking like a talk show. Come on. Forget it. I wanted to hold it. I think I broke it. Can you hear me still?
Yes, I couldn't hear you, but now I can hear you again.
Just edit all that horrible crap I just did. No, I want to hold like this and talk. All right,
Next time.
My number two. My number two is Austin Eckler. I didn't think that he would be used in the manner that he's used right now. I'll make it short. I thought, Larry Roundtree is a serviceable early down back. Joshua Kelly, I haven't given up a faith on. I'm very stubborn when it comes to players like this. Like these, I don't just quit on players after 1 week. I like to be Mr. Right. I like to prove everybody wrong. And even if they tell me, like, the more people tell me a player sucks, the more I'm going to want to believe in that player. So I still believe in those players. But, Austin Eckler is obviously better. Next year, am I going to still believe in Austin Eckler? No, I'm not. I'm not going to believe in Austin Eckler. He's going to be, 28 years old next year, right? I'm still not going to take, I think he's going to be a bust next year. I'm not going to mess with him. I might change my mind starting tomorrow morning on that takes. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, wrong on Austin Eckler. I took Antonio Gibson over Austin Eckler in the second round, and I am very upset about it.
Oh, that's a rough one. My last one. One player I was really excited about before free agency was Jonnu Smith, tight end. I thought he was finally going to go to a place where he could really get some more targets than he did with the Titans. The Patriots got him and Hunter Henry. I just thought they would use Jonnu Smith more because the receivers aren't very good, but they're finding a way to make, Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar, functional. And Jonnu Smith is getting very little touches, so he's on a lot of my rosters, and I cannot play him, so he's just on the bench. So I was wrong. I thought he was going to be, maybe ascend to a top 12 tight end, and that was not correct at all.
I was all over Jonnu Smith. I couldn't wait to get him in my leagues. I thought he was going to be the best value of the entire draft. My third one is Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, I believe, is top 5 in receptions or targets, probably both, in the running back position this year. He is what we call in the league, in fantasy football, a league winner. I didn't see this backfield shaking out the way it did. I thought it was just going to be this, especially with Giovanni Bernard there. I was like, oh, there goes his receptions. And Ronald Jones was there taking probably like 30-40% of the, runs. I didn't want any part to do with it. I made it a point to not draft any Bucs running backs. And I did, because I don't have any of them. So, I screwed up on Leonard Fournette, and I'm sorry to everybody for that. So that's my 3.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on Fournette. I thought that backfield was going to be a mess, and yet another instance that that the player wasn't the problem for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was the actual franchise. So it's a common theme. So pretty much anytime a player leaves there, they usually do very well. So that should be something that you look to in the future. So that'll do it for the show this week. For all of you that are in the fantasy playoffs, good luck with all these COVID positives. It looks like it's going to be a mess. I don't know what I'm going to do on a lot of my rosters because there's so many players that have COVID. And I'm sure more are going to pop up, the day of the game. So it's going to be a real mess. And, you just have to get lucky this week, I guess.
Yeah, indeed. Good luck, everybody, with that. I don't have anybody affected by COVID on any of my playoff teams right now, surprisingly. But, yeah, good luck. It looks like it's going to get real worse before it gets any better.
All right, so we'll talk to you guys next week.